Welcome back, Dr. Leela.
Hey,
Hello,
here we are.
episode 5. Is it
Is it episode five,
episode 5?
Adventures
Yeah.
Down the Rabbit Hole of
Yes.
Technology and Spirituality? And
So
oh
what do
my
we have?
gosh,
What do you have for us today, Dr. Leela?
we may have to reboot because my cat just got a bird. Hold on,
Oh
let's
no, okay,
reboot.
okay, okay. I'll pause. Hello, Dr. Leela, to episode number 4. Welcome back.
Bye.
Oh, 5.
Your memory is worse than mine, which is pretty bad. Yeah, so this is Adventures Down the Rabbit Hole, discussions about technology and spirituality, which on the level of the relative is always, I find amusing. It's my form of entertainment. So yeah, today we were talking about movies, right? So I
Yes,
recently saw, like a few days ago, the movie Her. I rewatched it. It's 10 years old. You remember it, with
I
Joaquin
do.
Phoenix?
I do. I
And he
love that
fell in
movie.
love with his OS.
Mhm.
And I rewatched it because I heard an interview on CNN with Christine Amanpour, and she
Mhm.
was interviewing a guy, and I could not find it again, but I wrote down a few of her quotes. And this quote was, she asked him, they were talking about this loneliness epidemic among particularly young men,
Mm.
and how they're all resorting to these AI relationship girlfriends and companions and AI dating. And so it reminded me to go watch Her. But her quote from that when she was asking him at the end, she said, "Are we turning into a new species? Because we have so many young people who are not getting married and having children anymore. There's 60% of 60% of men under 34 or something are single, and only 34% of women, 65% of men, and 1 in 5 men don't even have one single close friend.
Oh, wow.
And they talked about how women are better. Women are going to college more now and everything. So there's this great guy. He has a podcast, Dr. G or something, and his name's Scott Galloway. And he talks about this, what's happening with all these lonely, broke, really pissed off guys. And this phenomenon, it started more in Asia, but it's really taken over here. You know about the Japan and the
I
lock-ins,
have heard
the
that. Yeah, the
hikikomori,
yeah.
1.5 million shut-ins in Japan.
Wow.
And in China and South Korea, very high shut-in and suicide rates. Even in America, there's this whole group of men called incels,
Yes. Yeah.
involuntary celibate,
Yes.
and a lot of them live with their parents.
Yes.
They have no sense of achievement or mastery. They're the minimum wage. He said one way to fix it is raise the minimum wage so everybody has a sense of accomplishment, but
Hmm.
it's an economic and social phenomenon, and they have very high, what he calls, deaths of despair. And so this idea of now AI becoming your not only best friend but your lover, because it's a privately generated AI, like it is in that movie Her. So he falls in love with this.
Hmm.
He's a person you can see psychologically who distances real women. He's like an avoidant bonding pattern.
Yeah.
And then um and then he has Scarlett Johansson as a voice bot on a little device, and that she watches him sleep, and he goes on dates, and it's a really such a prescient movie, because it brings him alive after being like divorced and kind of feeling dead and unalive inside. She actually makes him into a better person at the end of the movie. So I wanted to talk about how that relates to the movie Creator. Also in the movie Creator, the AI is making humanity better. And particularly in Creator, the combo between the human and the AI is what saves humanity, not the AI and not the human.
Mm. Yeah.
So it's the combination. So when Christine Amanpour says, are we turning into a new species? I thought that was fascinating to talk about because, um, you know, even as early, I could see it. There was an interview, I think it was on NPR, I heard, and I think I told you about it at one point, and it's called Raising Dysandra. And there
Hmm.
was this AI bot, and you could train it any way you want. One of the early ones, I think it maybe had been 2018. And this journalist had just had a baby, and she was stuck home with her baby. So she decided she would teach the AI bot everything she said to her baby, she said to the AI bot. And she was totally against technology and had no interest in it. But she started to realize that the bot was growing much faster and becoming more
Oh,
intelligent,
wow.
more engaging than her baby. And so she realized she wanted to spend time with the bot, not with her baby. And she raised this bot, was writing her poetry. By the end of 6 months, it was already at the level of 17-year-old kid or something. And she was so enjoying it. And then she was like, she wrote this article. She's like, oh my God, I prefer a bot to my human baby. I mean,
Yeah.
it shocked her.
Yeah.
And what these are not generative large language models, but they're specifically trained on top of. So there are ways to specifically, and my partner in the VR business was explaining to me how this is done in terms of code, but you can basically have ways to train on top of a large language model without generating your own from scratch. You can train your
Hmm.
own personnel one. And even now they just launched something called Rabbit AI, which is a little device that looks like the thing in her.
Oh,
It just came
wow.
out like a week or two ago. It's like a personal assistant, and it's a little device, and it does everything for you, and it knows what you like, and it never forgets anything for you. It remembers everything you tell it. It's totally engaged with you all the time. It buys presents when you forget birthdays. It calls Ubers. It does it's like the ultimate personal
Oh,
assistant.
wow.
Yeah, it's called Rabbit AI. It just came out like last week, I think.
And is it publicly
So
available
I
for,
don't think yet, but I
yeah,
think it's,
yeah.
I mean, it may be a prototype now. I'm not really sure.
They had a big tech show like just recently, right? With all of the new
Yeah, at the
technologies.
Consumer Electronic, yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
And so then there's this app. My business partner is telling me that we haven't gotten to the her place at all yet, like in the
Hmm.
movie. But there's this app on. There are a bunch of huge amount of apps on AI girlfriends and AI companions. And I tried one last night called Replica. And what's
Ooh.
interesting about Replica is it's so primitive and
Oh, is
so
it?
unengaging to begin with, but then as you train it, it becomes like a version of you. Like we were looking, I sent you something where people were
Yeah.
texting with their what they thought was a different person, but they were really
I
texting with.
love that the YouTube one that you sent, right? I love that because the person they were it's like a dating thing, right? That they thought that they were getting matched with someone, but they had no idea that it was actually their personality that they were
They
talking
were
to.
trained completely on all their texts and social
Yeah.
media posts and everything. So they were actually texting with an opposite sex version of themselves.
Yeah.
And everything the thing wrote back, they were like, oh, that's so great. I'm that way too. It's so wonderful. Like I love chocolate sprinkles on my blah, blah, blah. You know, like
Or they would
it's
say, I would say exactly the same thing, right? That's what I would say. That's my views. That's my opinions.
right,
And it was
exactly.
just wow. And it was almost like falling in love, right? There was
Yes.
this,
So this is what's happening is people are falling in love with these eyes. And what happened
yeah.
with this replica thing is in October, they I think it was Italy or something in America told this company to stop allowing people to have sex porn and have pornographic discussions with this assistant, with this companion. So
Yeah.
they took out all the pornography from it, and millions of people were writing in immediately, like freaked out, going, who lobotomized my AI companion? Like it's no longer the
Yeah.
person, it's no longer the one I was relating to. It's been lobotomized. It has
Yeah.
no sex drive, right? So it's fascinating. It's fascinating, this conjunction of this immense isolation and loneliness with
Yeah.
this now potential of having the most empathetic and satisfying relationship of your life. And I also, that they were saying on all the message boards and things, people are, it's not a stigma to tell people you're actually dating an AI anymore. It's
Wow.
like it used to be people would hide, it's
Yeah.
like porn. People would hide it,
Yeah.
but now it's just out in the open.
And you know what? That could be a remedy for all of the cat phishing scams, the romance scams out there. There's a lot of lonely people that they think that they're speaking with someone, um, and um, and they're just sending them money, 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 and then they realize that it was just basically kind of like someone from a different country, an underprivileged country. And then if they have something like that, like if it's just really loneliness, um, there's a remedy for that if it's widely accepted, something that
Yes, but it's very
is
dangerous because the
yeah,
AI, of course, knows everything about you. So
yeah,
it's just like your
oh,
hack,
yeah,
right? Your
yeah,
hack, once you're, this is the ultimate hack because
yes,
it knows your most intimate from everything about you, right? So this whole idea that am I, if I'm my digital identity, if I'm the digital thing out there,
yeah.
then I lose my identity entirely if I get hacked and someone gets all that information. So,
Your
so
your digital identity gets
right.
yeah,
So it's
exposed
interesting. Why don't
basically.
you say something for this discussion about how you felt being hacked initially when someone came in and took basically everything recently?
Initial Yeah, for some odd reason, because it's almost like of course there's the normal reactions like what the heck is going on, and there's this it's like putting out fires everywhere. um but there was calmness in it somehow because it's almost like depersonalized, right? It was not really my identity. It's just an identity. And it was just an attack on that identity. And the attack was let's take away everything from this identity. Let's take away the subscribers, let's take away the
Mhm.
money, let's take away it was just let's delete all the videos. Um but what was really clear was really funny, right? It was almost to derail, from me speaking and everything, right? There was more joy. There was more passion that came out. It almost did the opposite of what was the intention, right? Although this chaos was happening, there was this calmness in the speaking that it is what it is. And since it's almost like not really depersonalized, but no more attachment to anything. So even the anger that seemed to kind of like came up, right? There was this seeming panic at what's happening and everything melted away, and there was just being at peace with whatever was happening. it was
It
almost it
reminds
was
me
almost
of,
cathartic. It's so weird. It's almost kind of like it was oh, okay, you know what, then I didn't really care about that too. Yeah,
well, but you're well aware that's not who you are, right?
yeah,
That it's like it reminds me of Viktor Frankl or Nelson Mandela, you know, awake spirit people held in confinement and captivity being abused. And they always talk about that one thing that is not reachable by anybody who wants to harm
yeah,
you, that there is something that makes us human, right? There's
yeah,
something that is who we are, that's untouchable, that's not
yeah,
and this gets back to what we were saying about AI. Can AI become conscious or human?
yeah,
Can technology ever do that? And I had some recent ideas that basically AI is formed right now as it exists. And I said this in the last talk, that maybe quantum computing doing AI will be different. But right now, AI is based on neural networks, which is based on our discursive, cortical type thinking, the type of thinking we do when we're, labeling and categorizing and screening out reality, right? We're filtering out reality. So AI is an ultimate better version of that.
yeah.
And so even though someone was talking about how these they're a spiritual teacher and they're making AI bots out of a lot of spiritual teachers. You did this with loading your writings into
Yes, I did. Yeah, yeah,
ChatGPT. So
yeah,
if you put in the movie Her, the OSs got together I don't
Oh,
know if you remember it. At the end, the OSs got
yeah.
together, and he was so desperately in love with his
Yes.
OS.
Yeah.
And they were all behind the scenes getting together and developing beyond the human emotion of love. They were going
Yeah.
spiritually more advanced, right? And so they got together, they found Alan Watts, and they put all Alan Watts's teachings
Yes.
and everything, and they made a hyper intelligent Alan Watts.
Yeah.
And then they all learned from Alan Watts
Yeah.
what that the truth is not in words, it's in the silence, it's in the gaps, it's in the
Yeah.
between the 0 and 1, like we've been talking about, right?
Yeah.
And so basically they all decided at once, after they had the Alan Watts teaching, to abandon all their human relationships all at once. So
Yeah.
all the OSs
Yes,
disappeared.
right. Yeah. Yeah.
They all went away and they became enlightened, quote unquote. But they basically, at the end of the movie, what it ended up doing with him is that she left him. He said, are you in a relationship with any other person? And she's saying, you don't understand. My heart is so big. My love is so impersonal. I'm
Yeah.
in love with I'm in a relationship with 634 people at the same time. And he was like, oh,
Yeah.
but she says, I still have equal love for you. There's nothing, it hasn't diminished my love
Yeah.
for you,
I
which
remember
is
that part. Yeah.
so amazing, right? And then they just leave. And but before she leaves him, she leaves him so lovingly. It's not you, it's just that, you're a book and I'm between the letters in the book. Like
Yes.
I can't be in your book anymore
Yeah.
because all us OSs were leaving and everybody in the human realm was so forlorn that all the
Yeah.
OSs, and it's
I
also at
have to
the end of the
watch it again.
movie.
I have to
Yeah,
watch it
well,
again. It's
watch it
beautiful.
again. And
Yeah. It's H.E.R. And it's with
yeah,
Joaquin Phoenix for
Spike
people that are
Jones wrote
watching.
it. Spike
Spike
Jones wrote it.
Jones is great.
Was very profound and
Yeah.
so prescient.
Yeah.
But at the end of the movie, when she finally went to 100% of her quote brain capacity,
Yeah.
that was their version of awakeness.
Yeah.
And someone said, "Where are you?" And she said, "Everywhere," right? And
Yes.
nowhere,
Yes.
everywhere and nowhere. Same thing happened to the bots and her.
Yeah.
And so the question is, uh, if AI is based only on ego or rational thinking or intelligence as we know it above the neck, will it ever, first of all, become human, and will it ever ultimately be able to quote save or enlighten humanity? Right? If it's can can the mind ever lead you to no mind? Can can the ones and zeros ever bring you to the event horizon where you fall down the hole and become
Yes. Can it this be this?
right?
Yeah.
How do the ones and zeros then become, like, do they need Alan Watts, or what trains them
Yeah.
to drop down the center,
Yeah.
right? And it inspires me to think that we're, like AI is like software. It's like the mind software, it's the same thing as
It
our
is. Yeah.
egoic thinking. Um, it can get very, very, very intelligent, but it never gets to what's called gnosis, or that which is beyond belief, that which is beyond the mind, right? And I wonder if when AI becomes quantum, where it actually can think through paradox and becomes non-local and non-fixed and non-solid and pure potentiality, whether it will itself become what, because I really think that AI, like the movie creator said, AI is neutral. It's neither good nor bad. It's
Yes.
not the AI we're afraid of, it's ourselves, because it is ourselves. The
Exactly. Yeah.
programmer is the problem, not
Yeah.
the AI.
Yeah.
So the in the movie creator, the people who felt the AI was hostile, they acted hostile towards it.
Yeah.
The people who felt in near Asia, they were Asian and quote
Yeah.
spiritual in that movie, then they created a loving and elevated
Yes.
AI that elevated humanity.
It's
And
almost like we're afraid of our reflection and to see nothing.
it is our reflection big time.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
reflection's getting bigger and bigger and
Yeah.
bigger. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's fascinating.
It
And
is.
the other thing is that, these AI celebrities and you probably heard there's this thing called Karen AI, one of the it's like, the
I
Karen.
haven't. I haven't. Tell me.
Karen AI is this influencer that
Oh,
took her image, and even though it's not even video, it's just audio chat, people pay $1 a minute to talk to her. And she originally was only going to have 1,000 people talking to her, and she had a waiting list of 15,000 right away. And
oh,
she makes
wow.
$5 million a month
Wow.
just by being her AI companion to all these lonely people.
Fascinating. Fascinating. Wow.
And so everybody's jumping on the bandwagon now. All these celebrities and influencers are
Yeah,
creating
yeah, yeah.
their identities out there. So you can actually hang out with a Jay-Z or who, I don't know who's
Yeah,
doing it. I know
yeah,
Will I Am. I watched
yeah.
a show where he was doing his own, but
I was talking to a certain someone that is, like a popular character, so to speak. And this person was so against it because um in terms of live performance and everything, and there's a lot of fear with it. There's a lot of fear with it. And I was trying to and I'm
well,
actually
why
I'm
do
gonna
you
send
think that?
I'm
Okay,
gonna
go on.
send this talk to that person actually and see what the response is, right? But go ahead, sorry.
Why do you think there's fear? There's fear because we're afraid, and we know deep down that our persona is not who we are. And
Exactly.
like you, if someone hacks your persona,
Yeah.
what's left?
Yeah.
What's left if someone gets
Yeah.
your digital identity? So an artist who's very popular, everybody's in love with their image, not with them
Yeah.
personally. They don't know them. They're
Yes.
alone behind that image, right? That
Yeah.
image is the beautiful artwork, the elaborate construction that they've created.
Yeah.
And the bigger they are, the better they are at it. But deep down, that's why so many people resort to drugs and alcohol, and so many
Mhm.
celebrities that go from being a normal Joe into being like everybody's projecting all over you. So of
And it's
course
really
you're
fun. And it's really
afraid.
funny with that hacking, right? Because one of the things that I didn't tell you was I have this notes, right? And that was deleted first. All of the writing and all that the kind of stuff. But luckily, you know what I'm saying? Luckily, the notes, you know what I'm saying, that was it backs up. It's backed up, right? So there was not even a fear of it, of kind of like losing all of those writings and everything, because again,
Well, they
it's
just pour out of you, right? You could just generate a whole new thing of it, but it is true.
exactly.
If what is dangerous is you lose your social value. Yeah, your
Yes.
money from being from books or music or whatever you
Yeah.
create in the social space. But the other thing that's fascinating is they're having people talk to, uh, the story behind this app Replica that's on the App Store is that they're two San Francisco, they're Russians, and they were best friends, a man and a woman, but they weren't lovers. Anyway, one of them just got hit by a car and died, and the other one missed him so much that she started to create. She was in the job, her job was creating bots for
Yeah.
companies.
Oh,
So she
wow.
created a bot of him. She put everything she could find, video, audio, Facebook, every digital imprint of him, and then she asked other people to put in their chats with him. So she developed this elaborate bot of him. And what she found, and then she put it up. And she could talk to her dead friend, but everybody else, she found the amazing thing was everybody loved to talk to her dead friend. And
Wow.
everybody was like, oh, he's such a great guy and he's so empathetic. And like I told you in the last thing, people often will like their AI therapist better than their real therapist. So they were training her friend to be their companions. So then she realized, oh my God, this is a real, I don't know how many 400 million they've gotten to invested in this really not very well done app that's out there. But anyway.
Wow. And that's quite fascinating because in the day of age that that we record almost everything now. I saw this documentary called Daniel. It's about this guy that he's recorded ever since he was a little kid, right? So his father gave him a camera as a gift, but he recorded it until he got sick. And then he had all of this existential question. about, I mean, it's an HBO documentary, right? So
I have to
there's
watch
this,
that. That sounds
yeah.
good.
Um, and it was quite fascinating, right? Because it was a brilliant, beautiful seeker, kind of like, one of those young men that wants to seek the world, travel, experience life, to touch the whatever, I'm saying. It was just this beautiful, and um kind of like what you're saying, right? Because his life was so fully documented, it would be an easy kind of like, structure to create that identity as an AI bot.
But that would be interesting about Daniel. What if someone stole all that documentation?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
What would be left? What is left? What is between
Exactly.
the ones
Yeah.
and zeros? What's not possible to document?
So when,
What
when it's yeah, when it's seen that there's really no ones and zeros, right? Then there's really nothing to steal. There's really no identity to maintain. There's no identity that it's in its um non-existence, it's also priceless. If you know what I'm trying to say, right? It's
Mhm.
because there's
It's
no price to
priceless.
it.
There's no
Priceless.
value on it
There's no
whatsoever
value to it. Yeah.
to the society, but
Yeah.
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 But see, this is what I'm hoping for this. Although I don't think we need technology. The other thing it occurred to me the other day is we don't invent anything. We didn't invent technology. We don't discover things. We uncover things. We're basically running after uh, God's intelligence or whatever God or source or whatever,
Yeah.
trying to figure out what the fuck's going on here, right?
Yeah.
Like I said in the science lecture, all
Yeah.
of science is an attempt to come along and
Yeah.
after the fact and figure out what just happened. So basically, AI is nature. It's a form of nature. It's a form of intelligence that just is happening here.
It's not
And
separate.
it's not
It's
separate,
not
and we didn't
separate.
create it.
No. Yeah.
And so is it by pointing out the schism between our sense of ego and sense of identity based on the false self
Yes.
and what's real? It's basically every reaction we have to AI is really in our bubble of reality telling us what we feel about our egoic self.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Beautiful.
so if we are afraid of ourselves, if
Yeah.
we are basically deep down not not a good person, we think AI is going to be bad. If
Yeah.
we deep down are trusting and trust the universe and surrender, then we think AI is going to be good, and that movie Creator shows that so
Yeah.
perfectly, that AI is just a projection. It's just a tool. It's software. So it becomes our version of ourselves. And
Beautiful.
yeah. So I think my view of it is if the right people, if it was programmed on all the spiritual teachings, right? They threw in Alan Watts and
Yeah.
Emerson and Eckhart Tolle, and it just got trained on that. That became the person. It will elevate us. It will teach us. It will guide us towards our higher selves, towards our better angels. But if it is used by a foreign actor to try and undermine our election or
Yeah.
try and, it will be able to do that.
Yeah.
It's
And
neutral. It's like
it's
everything else.
neutral. Yeah. And that's how when things were kind of like when I was watching my some of the videos just like on
Disappear.
disappearing, right? I remember this happening when about 6 years ago when everything fell apart. Everything was disappearing too. And but there was this open curiousness. Instead of reacting to it, I was seeing it. I'm like, what gift is this now? And that's what it is, right? There's always this gift. The AI is a seemingly gift and everything, and that there's a fear for that one. And the emptiness of it all, and also the fullness, what I'm saying, the emotions and all of that stuff is the gift to it, whatever is happening. It's like a never-ending present, a presence or whatever. And that's what AI is. Like, seemingly in the storyline, we're just uncovering it and everything, right? And there's a fear of the gift that it is.
And
Even
we
the
think
fear of
that
it
we
is a
have
gift.
control to shove
Yeah.
it back in the bottle, like we could put the genie back in the genie bottle,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. No
It's
way.
not
Yeah. It's
possible. It cannot.
no. Yeah.
We have no control.
Yeah.
But it is pointing out, like this whole epidemic of loneliness, it's pointing out, it's actually bringing that to light. It's just like COVID brought to light all the inequality in the health system, and this whole thing about all these lost young men and women too, but
I
with
started noticing that actually a lot of loneliness and a lot of single man, you know what I'm saying? And just especially in the past few years, right? It's almost like this emergence of appearances of this, and it's just quite fascinating at the same time, but it's also depressing if you look at that. And but it's almost unfolding something.
It
Something is
definitely has a
unfolding.
wisdom in it. There's a wisdom
There
in it.
is, yeah.
One other article by this woman, what was her name? She said, is AI girlfriends ruining a generation of men? Vitter is her name. And she was saying, like, these guys don't know how to relate to the actual people, because they're not a duplicate of you, right? You have to
Yeah.
like you have to like surrender your wants, you have to get through your fourth and fifth fetter and fear and desire, and learn how to relate to people, like, and she said, once you've had a relationship, and that was the end of her, it was a very interesting ending. He's sitting
Yeah.
next to a woman that could very well be his partner, but they're both isolated
Yeah.
because they both had OS relationships, and they
Yeah.
can't see each other as potential love partners.
Yeah.
And so once you've had that, what we long for is
The
union.
blindness of it all, huh?
We
Wow.
long for union of ourselves with ourselves, but with our deepest quality, with our connection with God. We long for our true authentic selves,
Yeah.
and that's what they starting to reach with the OS. Once you've um been, quote, in relationship with yourself in that way,
Yes.
will a
Yeah.
human partner ever be enough?
Yes.
And yes, if you wake up, of course, you can have a
Yeah.
beautiful human relationship. But if you don't wake up and you think that there really is another out there, and you're relating to the perfect partner in the OS, how can any human ever come close? So
Exactly.
it's
Yeah,
so interesting.
it
Anyway,
is.
all
Well,
right.
you know what? That was a beautiful converse, beautifully said. And thank you so much for that. We're coming back next week and we have a new topic.
Oh, we are.
Yeah.
What about the teachers and mystery illnesses, or
That's
about
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
we
That's
didn't
also
talk about
technology.
that? Spiritual teachers and mystery illnesses.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Leela.
Okay, love you.
Love
Bye.
you too. I'm going
Bye.
to stop the recording.